Welcome to Beat the Odds. I'm Pat Mayo for NFL Super Wild Card Weekend, making some picks against the spread with my guys Matt O'Leary and John Hyslop. And I do want to let everyone know out there that if you subscribe to the Odds Checker YouTube page, smash the like button for the video in the comment section. Give me your best bet for this weekend. You will become eligible to get into the draw for an autograph Peyton Manning jersey. So I highly recommend that you guys do that right now. You can continue listening and watching and then go do that right now. And boom, you're in that draw for the autograph Peyton Manning jersey. Let's hop into everything right away. Matt, John, we got a tight set of games here in terms of what the spreads are looking like. When you have 16 games during the week, a few of them fall through the cracks and they're not so sharp. This week, 6-game island games essentially for all of them. Yeah, Vegas is pretty in tune with what the spread should be here. So I'm curious to know if you have any super strong leans on either sides of these games. We're going to start off with the first game, Vegas at Cincinnati. Cincinnati favored by 5.5 coming into the game. 49 is the over-under. Frigid conditions in Cincinnati for this game. Don't forget, too, that the Sunday night football game went to a full quarter of overtime, and Vegas was playing in that one. So, Matt, Vegas or Cincinnati?
I like Vegas here, getting 5.5 points. I think there's going to be a close game between these two teams. Cincinnati has to prove it to me first. I mean,
Vegas doesn't have to prove it to you?
Well, I mean, Cincinnati hasn't won a playoff game in my lifetime. They seem to always just find a way to choke these ones out. I think you're right in terms of the Raiders have to prove it too, but I think there's going to be a closer game than the 5.5 is leading us on to believe, or Vegas is leading us on to believe here. I expect a back and forth game. I think both teams will look to throw the ball. Derek Carr's had a great year. Joe Burrow obviously has put up some monster numbers the last couple of times we've seen him. So I think we're looking at a close game, 3-point game either way. So with that, I'm taking the points in the Raiders here.
John, I feel like everyone's getting duped into the Vegas side here because even teaser-wise, you can make a pretty compelling teaser case for them because you get to go through 7, you get to go through 10, even on a 6-point teaser. Feel like they're just laying this line out here. Everyone wants to pick an upset in the first round. I've even seen a lot of rumblings about Vegas money line here. I'm big on the Bengals. I think they absolutely wax them, but no, I'm just one person. Where do you lie?
Here's the team total over, especially Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock game. Bengals 26.5 is at DraftKings right now. That's like minus 130. If you want, you could go 27 at FanDuel, minus 110. Here's the thing, no matter what happens, I don't think the Raiders are going to stop Cincinnati at all. They've already hung 30 plus on the Raiders once. Last 5 playoff teams Raiders played have all hung 30 plus on them. I think like 36. The Bengals, last 2 times you saw their starters. Once they went 41, once they went 34. It doesn't matter how close this game is. I think no matter what, the Bengals are going to score 26.5 points.
I mean, listen, I'm on board with you on that. They did cover that over total against the Raiders earlier in the season, but a lot of that had to do with basically the last 8 minutes of the game, Carr trying to force it, trying to turn everything over. Instead of going with the minus 5.5, I think my favorite play on this game is to go to DraftKings, take a same game parlay, get yourself down to even money with Bengals money line, thus assuming that the Bengals are going to win this game, and then just bring it back with Josh Jacobs over 14.5 receiving yards. Those two things together will pay minus 105 at DraftKings Sportsbook. And they're correlated, obviously, because when you see Josh Jacobs in games that the Raiders win, he's averaging just under 4 targets a game. In games that the Raiders have lost since the beginning of November, he's averaging over 6 targets a game. So over 14.5, it's bringing that line down because it's around 21.5 for his over-under prop, but as a part of the same game parlay, you can drop that a little bit. I think that's the way that I'm most comfortable playing this one. Although, with forced to make a pick, it's going to be Cincinnati minus 5.5, but I like that same game parlay at even money a little bit better than actually just tackling the spread. Later on Saturday, we got New England at Buffalo. This line has now moved to 4. It opened at 3.5. So there's Bills money coming in, although this temperature doesn't seem like it's going to be overly warm in Saturday night in Buffalo, but the winds seem like they're going to be stayed down a little bit. So it's not going to be overly reminiscent of what we saw in that Monday night game. John, 44 is the over-under. I think a lot of people are going to be hammering this under because of what we saw in Buffalo last time. It's going to be freezing. I don't know if I can get on board with that, though.
Same game parlay is the way I'm going to do this. I'm going to be watching this with a bunch of Patriots fans. Okay. So at a Patriots fan's house. So you can't just roll in there with a Buffalo ticket in your pocket. You know what I mean? So you got to get creative. I found a way on DraftKings plus 110 to go under 54.5, which I just don't think there's any chance these two teams get to 54.5. New England plus 14.5. So now I can say I'm rooting for the Patriots, even though that's kind of setting the bar low, to say the least. New England over 10.5 on the team total. So they've done that every game this season. Not asking to do a lot there. And then finally, Buffalo's team total over 14.5. That's 4 legs. They're kind of correlated. It's one of those fun ones, too, where you're not sure what you have half the time because there's 4 of them. That's always nice. But plus 110 for that just seems like they're giving money away over there at DraftKings.
No, I mean, listen, a lot of these places, especially with New York State opening up, that they want you to go on. They're giving you some juicy odds, Matt. Looking at it, I think that the better side of this game is, as much as I don't want New England to win, plus 4 seems pretty good for a New England team that's going to run a very slow pace, going to try to run the ball, play pretty good defense, and has an opportunistic defense. And at least 5 times a game, Josh Allen is going to try to throw the other team the ball, whether or not they catch it. As we saw in the last game in Foxborough, if they had just held on to the pick, it was a pick 6, and all of a sudden that's a different game. So 4 seems like a pretty good number here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's hard for me to get a feel on either of these teams with the 4 points. So I instead am going to try to sell you on the under here with the frigid temperatures. In this one, I think it's going to be, as you said, a slow-paced game. I think New England's going to try to run the ball a lot. And these two teams, 2 of the best defenses in football. I don't expect either of these teams to be putting up a lot of points in this game. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. And while maybe we get the fireworks in the first game, I think it's going to be some old school smash mouth football on Saturday night.
Yeah, we can see it. Do you think that if people were looking to play a 2-team 6-point teaser this week, or even 6.5-point teaser, the Patriots feel like a pretty good leg of that, getting them up to 10 or 10.5, don't they?
Yeah, at that point, absolutely. I think it's going to be a tight game. So if you're getting it up that high, absolutely. At 4, that's where I start to question it.
Do you think you'd be better off playing the plus 4? Because maybe this ends up being a field goal. Obviously, playing the plus 4 is better, but you could be looking at money line here too. Plus 175 for New England. I think Buffalo is going to win. So I'm not advocating for the plus 175. But if anyone has doubts about Buffalo, and maybe the cold temperatures keep this really close, and you're playing a coin flip game for the money line at almost 2-1, would that have any interest to you, John?
No.
No? Okay. Just straight up no. You don't think the Patriots can win this game?
Oh, I wouldn't bet on it. I definitely want them to, but I can't bet on that. No.
What do you think, Matt?
I'm not sold to go into Buffalo and beat them again. I know they did it earlier in the year and Mac Jones threw like 3 passes, but I think the Buffalo got embarrassed and they remember that. The Buffalo defense in the press conference was really angry and pissed off about how they lost that game. And I don't think they're going to let it happen to them again. Again, like it'll be tight, but I think it's probably a field goal game either way. So I guess you kind of talked me into the Patriots at plus 4, but I don't know if I could get on them to win this game.
See, I would throw it out that the Patriots are still 8-3 against the spread in their last 11 games. But looking at this particular circumstance, and I think it really depends on the wind, because the wind was up so much in that Monday night game that it really killed the Bills' vertical passing attack. They couldn't really do anything. If the wind stayed down, maybe it's a moot point. But Buffalo is a team that's better off playing in Florida this time of year, playing in a dome this time of year. Although they play in Buffalo, this particular Buffalo squad is not built for these conditions. This is not where they're optimal. So I do think, although they're getting these extra points because it's in Buffalo, I don't think the home field advantage is really going to provide them anything.
No, this game's still not even sold out. Like, I don't know.
Would you want to go?
No, God, no. So, I mean, it's going to be freezing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to Sunday and maybe we can get some better weather, although it's not looking that way in the Eagles at Bucks game at the moment. The overall total for this game has dropped 3 points on Thursday morning. Maybe it ends up going back up, but the early weather reports for Tampa is that there's going to be essentially a monsoon with 30-mile-per-hour winds. Now, there are reports that could all be done by the time that kickoff comes along, and temperatures are great in Tampa Bay, which they normally are at this time of year. But there's been an overreaction in terms of the over-under at most places right now, dropping from 47 all the way down. So the spread has not been affected. Still Tampa Bay minus 8.5. 47 is the over-under. Tampa Bay is great in these situations, especially being big home favorites so far this year. That's fantastic news for them. They're much worse on the road. We saw them not cover a game in Philadelphia earlier this season. Obviously, no Godwin, no Antonio Brown, but it looks like Uncle Leo, playoff Lenny, Leonard Fournette is going to be back, although that's not really going to affect the spread because he's a running back and it's a system running back system. But they still have Brady, they still have Gronk, they still have Mike Evans. It does seem like they're going to get some of their defense back. This is not the overwhelming run-stopping unit that we've seen in years, although it's still quite good. But Philly has proven, even against run-stopping teams like New Orleans, that if they can get going, they can run downhill pretty quickly. I still like Tampa minus 8.5. And Matt, when I talked about the teaser with the Patriots getting them up to 10, this would be the very clear, obvious other choice for the teaser to bring down Tampa Bay through two key numbers, 7 and 3, and get them at minus 2.5. Like, there's your teaser of the week, Tampa and New England.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I agree with you. I like them a lot at 8.5. I don't think this game's going to be very close because when you look at it, the Eagles have been better at running the football in the second half of the year. But what's Tampa Bay's strength? They like to stop the run with their big front. And I don't really trust Jalen Hurts to be able to go out and win a playoff game throwing the ball. So I think that plays into Tampa Bay's favor. They're the home team. It's not like it was last time these two teams met in the regular season where they were on the road in Philadelphia. And they've been really good against the spread recently, the Tampa Bay Bucks. So 6-2 in their last 8, I believe. It's, to me, disappointing all signs Tampa Bay, and I really don't think this one's going to be too close, guys.
John, the issue would be that if this weather doesn't stop before the game and it translates into the game and it completely neutralizes the deep ball and it's a lot of running, it's a lot of short range passing, that would lean someone towards the points, wouldn't it?
It would. Not me. I also can't take an under. So honestly, I have literally nothing written down here for this bet. It's literally Philadelphia team total over 17.5. Everything I'm looking at, if Tampa gets ahead, let's say it stops raining, all that, right? Tampa gets ahead, builds a lead. Jalen Hurts is good in garbage time. 17.5 is a pretty low bar to cover in the NFL. The Bucs rush defense is not what it was. It was a top 3 unit just last season. This year, I think on Football Outsiders, on DVOA, they were like 12. I mean, they're just not the same. So you got a tough run offense like Philly, good enough offensive line. Jordan Howard's going to play. I think Miles Sanders is going to play. Hurts can run a little bit. 17.5 is not a lot of points. The Eagles have done that in every game since December. I'll take that.
All right. So Matt, any interest in I'm trying to waver on this too, because I do think that the Bucs cover the 8.5, but I'm trying to run the different simulations in my head where what percentage of the time does Philly cover this number? I mean, with the way that it's set right now, it's probably like 48% of the time. How many times out of 10, let's say, I can guarantee you that Philly covers the 8.5 in this game. Of those 10 or 100 type of games where they cover the spread, how many of those do they win? Because Hurts is odd in this circumstance that he's such an outlier in terms of what his ceiling can be that Philly can most definitely win this game. It's not a very high percentage of the time that they win this game, but he presents such specific skill set that can really break a defense in weird ways. I know they haven't beat anyone good this year, so maybe it's a bad example, but would anything tempt you as a giant money line shot here as one of the bigger underdogs of the week?
No, and it's because of what you just said, the schedule that they played and where they got here. They beat up on the NFC East. I don't trust them against a team who's been here before in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and had success, and a guy like Tom Brady. I mean, it sucks to say because he's been doing it for so long. You kind of get tired of it, but I just can't trust him to outduel Tom Brady in a playoff game. I don't think I could be sold on a money line play here.
All right, well, let's go to the mid game on Sunday. San Francisco at Dallas. Dallas favored by 3 right now, although watching the VIG at a lot of these places, especially DraftKings Sportsbook, it went from -110 to -105 to even money on the +3 for San Francisco. That usually indicates that the hook is coming at some point. There was a lot of action on Dallas on Thursday morning from large betting syndicates. So that would be the quote-unquote sharp side of the game, although this really does feel like a 3-point game to me. I want San Francisco to win to protect my 70-1 Super Bowl futures on San Francisco, my NFC futures on San Francisco, and I do think that they possess a stylistic matchup problem for Dallas because obviously Dak hasn't really looked good outside of week 18 against the fourth stringers for the Eagles. I don't really know what that tells us, but coverage-wise, San Francisco is not very good. Dallas is going to be able to score points, but if there's one thing Dallas cannot do, John, is stop the run. And about as many different running variables that you can have on the San Francisco side, you're going to see. They're going to run 8 guys out of the backfield. They're going to run them misdirection and then to set up that one big pass down the field. And when you think about Dallas's defense, it's very blitz heavy. They pressure the quarterback. They have opportunistic ball hawks, but it feels like San Francisco is just not going to play that game. Dallas is bad at stopping the run. They're bad at covering receivers over the middle of the field. And those are the two strengths of the San Francisco offense. Maybe it's just a want that I want San Francisco to win this game, but once this hits 3.5, and I almost guarantee that it will, it feels like San Francisco plus 3.5 is the bet. At 3, I'd probably stay away.
I like San Francisco money line plus 145 at DraftKings. I think they're going to win the game. I mean, the Cowboys, they're teetering on frauds. I mean, when you go back and look at their schedule, they've lost to the last 3 teams, the playoff teams that they played. They've lost to the Cardinals at home, who are the biggest frauds in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Raiders. And, I mean, you could count the Eagles as a win against the playoff teams. That doesn't count. Like that was their backups last week. So this is purely a fade on Dallas and just hope that Shanahan can dial something up, which he's been able to do. I mean, they just look what they did last week. I don't think Garoppolo's even that good, and they came back against the Rams and beat them just to get into playoffs. So I don't know. I'll take plus 145 all day. I mean, you got the night game to come back with if you get in trouble there, but I think that's the play.
Matt, what do you make of it? Because along with the Raiders, San Francisco, I mean, it's the shortest spread of the week. Feels like the underdog that people want to back. And maybe it's an anti-Dallas thing, too, that people just don't want to see Dallas be good, so they want to bet against them to lose.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I'm staying away from the spread at 3. I think that's almost like the perfect line. I think it's a 3-point game either way. I'm going to go with the over here. And for a lot of the reasons you were talking up earlier, I think Dallas is going to be able to throw the ball against the San Francisco defense. But at the same time, while Dallas has made strides on defense from where they were, atrocious in years gone by, I don't know if they're going to be able to stop this run or contain a Deebo Samuel-like player. I think he's able to have a big day. Jimmy G, well, I don't know if I trust him to go out and, throw for a bunch of yards and come back in a fourth quarter and win this. But in order to get the number over, 53.5, I think they're going to be able to do that. I think it'll be a shootout game, a back and forth kind of game. It'll be a fun one, but I'm more confident in the over than I am in picking either of these two teams against the spread.
Well, good news, by using Odds Checker and checking DraftKings Sportsbook current lines, 50.5 is now the over-under. So that even better for you for the over.
I'll take it.
All right. Late game. The fun game of the week, which everyone is on one side, yet the spread refuses to move, which kind of makes it a little terrifying to prevent against a backdoor. But we have Pittsburgh at Kansas City. Kansas City's favored by 12.5 points. This over-under is now down to 46. And just trying to think about everything that goes into this game, I really want to take the Chiefs minus 12.5 because I think the Chiefs absolutely smoke them in this game. But with everyone on the same side of a spread, a giant spread, where Patrick Mahomes has not been so great, 2-5 against double-digit spreads against the number, has Patrick Mahomes been over his past 7 games, and like they haven't been particularly close. They haven't been within 7 points. One of them was against Pittsburgh earlier on, and that was without Travis Kelce. So that's a good idea. But I think that the over 46 in this game is the way that you want to play it. You just look at the pacing for both these teams. They're both inside the top 10 in plays run per game, and it does hedge you a little bit against that back door. Like San Francisco. Kansas City is going to score their points. That's going to happen. It's whether or not Pittsburgh can score enough points to catch up, and they weren't able to do it in garbage time last time against the Chiefs. They just need to get a few up there. This total seems really low to me for 46, especially when you consider that Pittsburgh has gone over in 4 of their past 5 road games, and just overall Kansas City has gone over in each of their past 5 in the pace of play in this low number. I feel like that's setting up pretty well for the over in this spot, Matt.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point there, but I guess I'm going to be the sucker and take the Chiefs at minus 12.5. I think it's going to be a blowout. I don't like Pittsburgh at all. And especially after Big Ben's comments this week, that was very bizarre. It was almost like we're just happy to be here. We're going to have fun. I don't know if that's the mindset I want my quarterback going into the game with. And you're right. I think Mahomes is going to put up a lot of points. The Chiefs are getting healthier now. And maybe this is the time where they hit their stride and go on another run here to a Super Bowl. But I don't. It's a shame there wasn't a tie on Sunday Night Football, because I don't like that we're subjected to another Steelers game that we have to sit through. So I think this one's going to be a blowout. I'll take it even with the big number.
John, you got the guts to take Pittsburgh?
God, no. Especially like just watching Big Ben play. I mean, he is a shell of himself. I mean, like there's been times when he's thrown the ball 35 times and not even broken 100 yards like that. I think it's happened twice already this year. And it's like he is, when I say awful, I mean, it's bad. But it's their defense. That's the thing I'm going to bet against this week. And this is probably going to be the most fun bet of the weekend. It's awesome that it's at night, but it's the Kansas City Chiefs team total over 29.5. The Steelers since week 11 have given up 36 points like 4 or 5 times. I think 4 times. One of the times was to the Chiefs. That was without Travis Kelce. And if you look at the Chiefs game log, I mean, they're dropping 30 burgers every week. The only time was last week when it was 28. So I mean, they were right there. I couldn't imagine a world where they don't score at least 30 points Sunday night. So that's got to be the way to go. And also, too, that's the most fun bet there is. I mean, I can't, other than the over for both teams, but I mean, I think you're going to get mad whenever you're watching Ben and the offense for Pittsburgh. You're like, yeah, like this is bad. So just go with Kansas City's offense.
Well, the one out in this game in terms of the over that I like at 46 is that the Chiefs could potentially hit that number themselves. So
100%.
It's less of a sweat that way. And if I get anything from Pittsburgh, especially in garbage time, I'm feeling a whole lot better about it. Monday Night Football, Arizona at the LA Rams. 3rd time these teams have played so far this year. Arizona won in Los Angeles earlier this season. It is -4 Rams, -190 on the money line, +170 to Arizona, 49.5 the over-under in this game. I don't have a particularly good feel for this one. When it comes down, like sometimes it's just as easy as, hey, who are the coaches? Who are the quarterbacks? And, you have 2 checks in one box for one team, go that way. Unfortunately, this is not one of those games. McVay, the better head coach to Kingsbury. Kyler Murray, even a banged up Kyler Murray is better than Stafford is at this point. There seems something fraudulent about the Rams that anytime that you can get pressure on Stafford, he's going to drop back, take a sack, and then he's going to try to force something and throw the ball to the other team. I just have no faith that the Rams can cover a -4 against a divisional opponent. I was considering Arizona on the money line, but that's probably, if I'm going to get the 4, I'll probably just take the 4. I like Arizona here, John.
All right, so it's an NFL game on a Monday night, so obviously you have to bet it. And that's why the NFL is pretty smart to put it on Monday night, because this is the perfect game to get on Monday night. It's the fraud bowl, literally. Both teams they're gone next week, both of them. So I'm going to go same game parlay. Again, that's what I do when I don't know what to do. Just go same game parlay and see what happens. But I took Arizona +7.5 and the over 41.5, and that's even money. I don't see how the Rams could beat them by more than a touchdown, and I highly doubt either team that they're going to go under 41.5. But the Cardinals, they've done I think, lost 4 or 5. The only team they beat was Dallas, which it's Dallas. So, but the Rams, when you look at them, they haven't beaten anyone either in a while. I mean, I think Tampa's the only playoff team that they've beaten this season, and that was in like week 3. That doesn't even count. Like, I was a young man when that happened. Like, this is a long time later. So that's, I mean, I don't really have any real analysis other than both of these teams are frauds. So you jack up one side over a touchdown and just see what happens.
Instead of trying to play 2 legs, Matt, that pays even money, like, wouldn't you just bite on the Cardinals plus 170?
I'm not sold on it. No, I wouldn't do it. They scare me. Both of these teams scare me. As John said, it's the fraud bowl. My feeling on both the Rams and the Cardinals from like, I don't know, October to now is so drastically different. They both seem like they were on a crash course to running through the NFC. And now, like, they both feel like teams that if they weren't playing each other would be one and done. So I'm staying away from that. I want to have some fun and go with the over at 49.5 because we know both these teams can score and put up points. I don't trust either of them. So instead, I'll take the point total.
Well, it comes one of 2 ways. Like, I wonder how much JJ Watt ends up playing because that would be a huge boost to the pass rush of the Cardinals. And that's really when their defense dropped off a cliff, was the moment that Watt ended up going out. They could no longer generate enough with Campbell that they had to over blitz, and then it left their secondary completely susceptible, and they could be run all over. There's all those factors. But on the other side, that we know that the pass rush for the Rams is excellent, especially when you come right up through the A gap. But it gets kind of mitigated with Kyler Murray and his ability to extend plays and get away from these defenders, that it takes away one of the best things that this Rams defense does. So there's a lot of like offsetting things. And when the advantage goes to the better quarterback, I would always lean towards the better quarterbacks. Hence why I like the Cardinals plus 4 in this game. But it's not just spreads, and it's just not totals and same game parlays and teasers that we can talk about through this. We do have props that we can get through, and one in particular, so we can talk about Slop's prop.
All right, so it's Thursday afternoon when we're taping this. We're not looking at a ton of props yet. I mean, they're trickling in now at DraftKings. They're usually the first to post, so I like to look there first. But one that I'm already on that I love is Darren Waller over 59.5 receiving yards, minus 110. We can get this 2 ways just because the Bengals can't cover the tight end. I think only 3 teams gave up more receptions to the position, and only 4 teams gave up more receiving yards. First time these 2 teams met, Waller went over 100. I think he had like a $116 on him. So we can get there just on that, or we can get there on the fact that the Raiders will probably play from behind in this game, and they probably won't be able to run the ball. So that's another, like, that's a way you get saved in the fourth quarter of these things all the time is, the team gets behind, they got to throw. I don't see how they keep him under 60 yards. Even though last week he didn't look like himself, they still target him 9 times. They only completed 2 passes to him. That could be an issue, but I'm not real worried about that happening again.
I like props from that game as well. I think it really depends on how you feel about the games. If you're like me, thinks that Cincinnati wins and they get up early, that Jacobs receiving prop at 21.5 receiving yards really comes into play, because then it becomes dump off city for Derek Carr when they're trying to play catch up. That's why I wanted to correlate it with the same game parlay to go along with it and drop down that number a little bit. If you want to play it straight up at 21.5, I got no problem with that. The other one that I would look at, and I'll run this by you, if we all like San Francisco in this game, each of the past 6 games that Elijah Mitchell has started and not been injured, he's averaging around 23.5 carries per game. Not receptions, not touches, carries per game. Right now at DraftKings Sportsbook, 76.5 is his rushing prop total. So let's just pretend like he makes it through the game healthy. If he can get to his number, even if it was 20 carries, what does he have to do in order to hit that number? Average 3.6 yards per carry? Seems pretty good.
That's not bad. I mean, I'd actually wait till the attempts come out. Have they come out yet?
They have not.
Yeah, like that's actually a good angle to look at. Attempts are always fun to check out. I mean, not just for the yards, but for the attempts themselves. I mean, you can find incredible value in that market, but it does come later, normally on game day.
All right. Well, that will do it on the show. I want to remind everyone to get in that draw for the autograph Peyton Manning jersey. All you need to do is smash the like button to the episode, subscribe to the Odds Checker YouTube channel, and put your best bet down in the description. We'll be back next week for the divisional round. So for Matt, for John, I'm Pat. We'll see you next week.